Hey YouTube, Do-It-Yourself Junkie 369 here. Today is day 21 of our RV-10 build, and a little bit before starting the video I went in and painted the last rudder skin. Oh, by the way, we're still working on the rudder. In case you're wondering, I have the part highlighted here. So before the video I went in and painted my last rudder skin, which finishes up step 13 of section 7, page 6. So now I'm going back and picking up on section 7, page 7, step 3, which is riveting in these reinforcement plates and then putting the nut plates on them. So we'll continue on. See, page 7, I believe page 9 is where we get into needing the Pro Seal. And that's where I'm going to pause and move from the rudder assembly to the elevators. And that's because the elevators require Pro Seal on them too. They have the same trailing edge. And there's also some foam blocks. These foam blocks right here, which get cut into an angle little foam rib. And those need to be glued in with Pro Seal as well. And that is where I'm at. So once I get those done, I'll be waiting on the Pro Seal to come in, and I'll probably go back to the elevators. I believe are section 9. I'll go back to section 8, which is the the horizontal stabilizer. So I won't have any downtime, but I might not finish one section before moving on to the others. So hopefully you guys can track with that. As usual, I'll put what steps and stuff I'm working on in a little subtitle at the bottom of the screen for as I start each new step. Other than that, I've seen some stuff online while I was researching Pro Seal. People using other stuff besides Pro Seal. There's Pro Seal, Chem Seal, and Fire Master or Flame Master. Those three I know are basically identical, meet the same mil standard. So they should be fairly identical. There's tape, which can be used for the trailing edge only, it looks like. And that is covered up in section 5 if you wanted to go that route. I had seen it mentioned on the forums, but I didn't quite realize it was in the manual until I was scrolling through yesterday reading about countersinking the trailing edge. So there's that route, but you can't use that tape on the rib blocks, the foam blocks. I don't think it'd work out very well. And then I know maybe a couple of people have used RTV. That might work. I don't know. I guess it's your airplane. Build it how you want to. And then the one that bothered me a little bit more than anything was some people had recommended using JB Weld. And JB Weld is a great two-part epoxy that can do a lot of stuff. But I have some channel aluminum. Before I started this project, I had gotten it and I was building a frame for my air filter on my HVAC system. And I tried holding it together with JB Weld, and I scuffed it up real great, glued it, went to pick the frame up, and it flexed and all the glue joints popped. And so everything on an airplane is going to flex basically. Even if you can't perceive it, there's some sort of flex going on there. So because of that, I would not recommend JB Weld. And RTV, it's flexible, so that one I'm a little bit up in the air on. I've never used Pro Seal before, so I don't know its properties when it's dry, what it's like. That's why I can't say like, hey, don't use RTV, but I can definitely say don't use JB Weld. It's not going to work out so great for you. That's all I've got. Time to get to work. So if you're wondering, I accidentally smiley faced both these rivets without even realizing it. So I had to go back and fix that real quick. So those two pieces are done and we can set them aside. And the next step is to rivet the stiffeners to the skin. And that introduces a new technique called back riveting. So for this you'll need back riveted set, and this is the No Mar one. So it has this plastic guard which both helps keep you on the rivet because this is going to be bouncing around a lot, and keeps you from marking up the skin. And this is wide open, so I could use the quick change spring, which looks like I'll have to because this won't fit through the beehive. And you'll need a back riveting plate, which is basically a piece of steel, a flat piece of steel. On that, if you can buy one, which I think is kind of pointless being me, or if you've got a piece of steel, it doesn't have to be very big. You can shift the skin across it, but you want to make sure there's no burr on the edge that's going to scrape up your skin. So it'd be worth knocking that burr down, and it might also be worth putting some duct tape or something around the edge to help protect it as well. So I'm going to do that real quick. And back riveting plate, that easy. And then you're also going to need some sort of tape to hold down the rivets. And of course you can get riveting tape. It'll cost you about $9 a roll. I'm going to use Scotch tape, but it's the Scotch Magic tape. You want to make sure it says Magic on it. The other stuff, the adhesive's too strong, and you'll spend a lot of time cleaning adhesive off instead of, which is not the end of the world, because some people are like, oh, it took me forever to get the adhesive off. I really wondered if they were using dentured alcohol, which I've had some adhesive left over from the blue tape, the blue plastic, especially on the stiffeners. And when I wiped those with dentured alcohol before priming, it took that stuff right off like it was nothing. So in case you're wondering, go with that if you got some adhesive left over from that blue tape. So I already had some of this stuff in the house. I don't know how much it cost. I didn't include it in my build price, so I guess I'll be a couple dollars low on the total cost. But I have this around because my kids are small and they tape stuff together, and at least with this, if they stuck it to something that they shouldn't have, we probably can get it off without ruining whatever they stuck it to. So on this, I'm going to only put the rivets in for one stiffener at a time. And I'm going with the short one, see how it turns out first. I guess on the next skin, I could put them all in. But kind of really wonder if it'd save you any time or be worth it. And then So the rivets are taped down, and flip it over. Put our plate under there. And get our stiffener. And then we just press that down, rivet it, press that down, rivet it. And just so you guys know, I've never actually back riveted before, so this is just a tad bit scary for me. Wow, that's actually really easy. No wonder people love this. And that's all there is to back riveting. Now, if you want to, you can try to peel this tape off and reuse it. If you're using the rivet tape, most people said they could get 3 uses out of it, and you're going to want to peel that off and reuse it, because that stuff is expensive. This, I've got like 3 or 4 rolls of it. It probably cost me about $4. So huge price difference there, and if I can't get it off of there nicely enough to reuse it, it's not a big deal. It's not the end of the world. And of course, I ripped it. So I'll go peel that off later. Always happens to me using tape. I'm trying to peel it up nice and even, and it gets a split in it and just goes from there. Okay, so I put a piece of block of wood under here just now, and all that is for is when I'm putting the rivets in, it lifts the skin off the table so the skin isn't laying on the table pushing the rivets out. Okay, the only deal with this tape is you got to be careful not to get a rivet on top of it while you're setting it or bucking it, because it'll push the rivet down into the tape, and then it will cause the head of that rivet to be protruding from the skin, and you'll have to drill it out. So just a heads up on that. Which I've done it twice, so there's 2 rivets I have to drill out. And to find them, you can just run your hand across the skin. It'll be pretty obvious. I had to put ear protection on. That by far is the loudest thing I have done on this airplane. Definitely don't do it at night when your kids are trying to sleep, because that will wake them up. And probably piss off your neighbors if you did it after dark. Okay, stiffeners are attached to one skin, and I think the other one's probably dry enough by now, so it's up next. These have some little curve to them. You might be able to get away with back riveting both of them. It was really hard to rivet that first one, so I'm going to give it a shot at back riveting this one. You could, normal people are just going to use a squeezer, but for some reason every time I order tools I keep forgetting to get that other flush set that I need for my squeezer. So I only ordered one when I started, on an oversight on my part, because I definitely had written down that I needed two, and I keep forgetting to order another flush set for my squeezer so that I can do flush rivets with it. And there's a sale going on right now. Maybe I'll see if I can't pick it up. But if I'm careful and do this, I should be able to rivet this into place using the back rivet method. Much easier that way than trying to rivet those normal, even though it's curved. It was a waste. I had to drill out 3 rivets because I wasn't supposed to put them in there. I had read the instructions, and somewhere between that page and doing it over here, I got distracted with the whole back riveting thing and forgot to skip those. But luckily, I was able to drill those out without damaging anything. So now it is correct. And the whole point of leaving those open is so you can peel the skin back and get access when you're assembling it later. Okay, so this last rivet down here, I can't get in there with the squeezer, can't get in there with the bucking bar, can't back rivet it. You only have like maybe barely 1/4 of an inch if you're lucky. So what I figured out is you can take a metal plate, wedge it in there, and then stick that metal plate on top of your bucking bar. And make sure you don't put the rib on top of the bucking bar, because you don't want to smash down that dimple you put on the other side. And then shoot it from there. And everything else, you should be able to fit a squeezer in there. So that's how I got that one. I think that one is when you attach the left skin, you get to use a blind rivet. I think a lot of people are just using a blind rivet on this side as well, even though the plans call out for a solid rivet. I have to do the same thing on this second to last one. I can't get a squeezer in there either. And now this one gets set aside after you got everything attached to it. And I don't know how well you can see it there, but I was leveraging a giant metal plate on my bucking bar to get those last two rivets. I couldn't fit the squeezer in there, and I couldn't fit a normal bucking bar in there. Now, last step before I absolutely have to glue something is riveting the forward clips to all these. And surprisingly, even though you can reach these clips with the squeezer, you'll be using pop rivets. And for that, you'll need a squeezer. I already have this Craftsman one that I bought a long time ago for doing metal work on my car. I'll obviously put a link. If I can find this one, I'll put a link for it. If not, I'll put a link for like an ATS one. Which might be a little bit better. I don't know if it makes any difference. Basically, this has teeth in it that when you squeeze down, it grabs the shaft and pulls it up. And you want to make sure to be pushing down really hard to keep this in place. That's all there is to it. Just got to do this several times. And once you squeeze it, release and get the shaft out of there. After I do these, I'll probably call it quits for today and come back tomorrow and start on the elevator section. I have to mow today. You can hear the neighbors out mowing their yards. And I have to go and make some ribs for dinner. Which I'll probably redo my fire setup video for making barbecue. That way I can kind of start from scratch and do a better job than the original video. And on the old slings, they're almost entirely made with these. I think the new sling does use some flush rivets, which adds to the build time, but that's one of the reasons planes like that and the RV-12 are so quick to build. And quite a bit easier if you think about it. Just stick the rivet in there, stick it in the hole, and squeeze until the shaft pops out of there. I thought I was going to be riveting, so I kind of have this in a bad position to be doing this. I'll take a quick break here and flip it around and make it easier on me. So if anybody wants a real easy airplane to build and you can get away with 2 seats and don't care so much about performance, you can go ahead and use my builder's code and buy yourself a Vans RV-12. Builder's code is in the description below if you haven't watched any of my other videos. And on this top clip here, the upper rib here is in the way of getting the squeezer down in there between the two. So you'll probably have to put the manufacturer head, if it's still called that, on the underside. Oh, time to set this out of the way and move on to the elevator section. But I will probably pick up on that tomorrow. Okay, so I put up the rudder and I'm going to skip from that and start work on the elevators, which are shown here. And basically there's parts on the elevators that get Pro Seal as well, so we're going to work on that while we wait on the Pro Seal shipment to show up, and then have everything ready to do at the same time. I think if something was going to make me wish I had a bandsaw, cutting all of these is probably going to be it. I wonder if there's anything like this during the wing build, where you've got to slice a whole bunch of parts of This stuff's going to take a while. I cut all these pieces in half. They were like this. And now I've got to take all this blue stuff off and file all the edges down and then remove all the burrs. And then from there I got to find all the parts that go in the elevators, which are that length basically from end to end, and deburr all those before I even start clecoing stuff together. I don't know what's going on with my glue shipment though. I think Vans is probably shut down for coronavirus. E905, that was one of the parts I was missing. I had one but not the other. We'll need to deburr these, but I'll set them aside. That's part of what we'll need. And now that looks like just about everything. I have it piled over here inside the crate, and I'll start deburring that as I get tired of working on these. And I'll probably deburr continuously as I go rather than sit and try to do all those pieces at once. I don't know. It depends on how tired I get of sitting here just deburring. So yesterday my camera ran out of memory space on the hard drive, and basically all I did was finish up deburring these. So I'm still working on step one here, and I have to go through and finish deburring all these, which I've gone through with this deburring tool and hit them all, but right here on the corners, as normal, I have to touch that up with the sandpaper since the tool's not very effective at that. But I feel like that tool does speed up the process, and so instead of having to sand everything, I just have to sand right here on the corners. Okay, so I'm going to take the plastic off these other parts and deburr some of them and take a break from the repetitive nature of deburring that. And deburring these parts is actually part of step two. And it's just great to have a little break to get rid of some of the monotony, and so switching to a different task allows me that break without losing any time on the actual build process. So I just noticed while ripping the bluing off of this, besides the part number here on this tag with the barcode, it also has the date, and I'm guessing that's the date manufactured. And on the smaller price tags, it has the part number and a date as well. So this one is March 27, 2019. And over here, this is October 15th, 2019. Well, both of them are. So I just thought that was pretty cool. August of 2019. And one good thing about that is if there was some sort of problem, if you knew that date when you talk to Vans, it would help them figure out when maybe a machine went out of adjustment or something, depending on what the problem is, or what time frame that problem was occurring and who needs to get notified, probably. Well, step one is officially done, finished. And now I can continue on with step two, which I've already been working on intermittently. And I'm almost done deburring all the pieces for it as well. I just have some of the spars and a couple of ribs left to do, and the skins. And then I can move on to step three, which is a lot more fun, where I'm actually putting stuff together. And then I'll have to take a break at some point and shoot the finishing bit for my primer test video, which I have the pieces sitting out here.
On these thicker pieces, you might notice me going over them with a file first. What there is there's raised little tabs from the press slicing through the metal, and I'm just filing those off to make deburring with the tool easier. Alright, finally made it to the skins. The last part I have to deburr before I start building something. Or, I guess it shouldn't be before I have to, it's before I get to start assembling something. Right. It's the second top skin. So I have 2 bottom skins left to do. I was hoping to make it further today, which I made a lot of progress. I was just hoping to be done with step 2, and I'm going to have to continue with step 2 tomorrow. It's crazy how much time this is taking to make it through a couple of these steps. I'm guessing it'll get real interesting when I get to the wings, where there's like a gazillion ribs that have to get deburred, which that's what all these pieces are. They're ribs for the elevator, and they're only about 10 feet long, and there's 16 of those, well, 32 halves. So I can only imagine the wings are going to be even more of just sitting here deburring. Still haven't gotten the glue in. I'm not sure if Vans is shipping it because of the whole COVID-19 pandemic thing going on right now. Same thing with, I'd gotten emails from Aviation Tool Supply saying like, hey, only order stuff from us if you're essential. If you're not essential, we're probably not going to get to your order or ship it. And then there's a sale. And so finally I made sure to buy a flat rivet set for my squeezer because I'd been missing it for so long. And that kind of sucked because the rivet set itself wasn't so expensive, but the shipping cost like $7. So usually when I buy tools from them, because shipping isn't free, I try to either pick it up on Amazon where I can get it for free, or I try to buy a lot of tools at one time, because that shipping, even if I get a large order, might only go from $7 to $8. And that way it makes it worth it. The shipping on a lot of stuff, it's like, well, I can deal with that. But one little item that can go in an envelope shouldn't be $7, but whatever. I need it. As usual, if you're thinking about getting a Vans aircraft, they're great performance-wise. I mean, nothing else out there quite flies like these aircraft, and they're totally worth it. And if you are about to pick one up, please check out my builder's number and make sure you send that in to Vans. It doesn't cost you anything other than your purchase of your aircraft kit that you're going to buy anyway, but then they'll send me $100 for helping you reach that decision, which I can't say enough good stuff about them. In fact, I keep putting off my video on how I came to pick this aircraft and the decision process that I went through, and I really need to get that out there so you guys can trace along it with me and have that help you decide on which aircraft you're going to build. It might not be an RV-10 depending on what your mission is. I have 2 kids and a wife, as you've seen, so during training it was all single or 2-person, but after I got out of training, most of my flying has been either, well, 2 people with a fairly heavy fuel load, or 4 people, 3 to 4 people. I've done a couple flights where I've just taken the kids. And I can't imagine what would happen if I built a 2-seat aircraft. If I ever wanted to take a kid flying, both of them are going to want to go, usually. And whoever didn't get to go, the other would be very upset, especially at this age, like standing on the ground crying, upset. Man, I'm going to have to close my garage door earlier tomorrow. There's a mosquito or 2 flying around in here. Kind of wish it was winter. although it was really cold this winter. Anyway, the other thing down there will be my builder's log, and that is more up to date than my videos. I update it every evening after I go inside, so check that out if you want a more up-to-date picture of what I'm doing. It also, the first tab lists hours that I've worked, what those hours have been towards, what steps those hours were worked on, or what steps were worked on for those hours. I also have like totals across the top. It's split out into whether I was building, doing some sort of admin work or prep work. I have expected build date based on the average number of hours. I also list the average number of hours since my start of the build. The second tab is money I've spent, which right now isn't very much there. That way it would give you an idea of how to price out what your plane's going to cost you, a more realistic idea of what gets spent on stuff rather than just trying to guess. And the third tab is kind of every time I use a new tool for the first time, I put that in that tab. That way you roughly have an idea of when do I need to purchase certain tools by, if you don't want to buy them all up front. And the other thing is, I didn't go through and buy a tool kit. I think there's a lot of unnecessary stuff in there sometimes, or stuff that's overpriced. So I went individual purchases, and if you go this route, you can see whether or not I saved money on buying tools that method, and then also give you an idea of what day or how far into the plans do I need that tool. And if you want to, since you are required to keep a build log, that file's downloadable. You can steal it and use it for your own. And I tried to make it user friendly to where you could go into it and just start entering your own data instead of having to worry about changing formulas or anything. The only thing that I'll point out, and maybe I'll do a separate video on it later, more in depth, is for the build projection date, the cell that I have highlighted in green, you would have to go in and change that in the formula for the build projection date. You'd have to change that cell to whatever your beginning date cell is. And other than that, the date on your laptop or computer, the time has to be set correctly, otherwise it will give you really bogus information. That's all I've got. Hope you enjoyed the video. If you did, please hit the thumbs up button. Leave any comments that you'd want me to talk about or questions you want to talk about. I'll probably answer them in the comment section, but then I also would come and share it in the video for people that might not read comments or want to dig through all the comments and read about them. And then this is going to be a majority of my channel now. I'm going to still try to do reviews, weight loss video blog. I've fallen way behind on that. I need to get back on track. I've also gained a little bit of weight because I haven't been that gung-ho about exercising. Well, I was sick for a good while. By the way, it wasn't coronavirus. It was most likely bronchitis, which still sucks. And let's see. Oh, and then if you want to see more of these videos or other videos, or just help support the channel, please hit the subscribe button. That helps out a lot with YouTube's metrics and everything. And thanks for watching.